guys, I'm Laura Vitale, and on this episode of Laura in the Kitchen, I want to show you how to make one of my favorite pies, but in portable version. I'm going to show you how to make some peach hand pies. They are incredibly delicious to make. A really amazing, like buttery, flaky, rich dough. It's out of this world, and making them individually, it's good for portion control, and they're good on the go. Now the first thing you want to start off with is making our dough. This is going to be a little bit interesting. I've got some all-purpose flour, salt, vegetable shortening, cream cheese, and unsalted butter. They have to be absolutely very cold. So what I do is I cut them into little pieces, put them on a plate, and then pop them in the freezer for half an hour. That way I ensure that everything stays super, super cold, which is important for getting a really flaky and delicious buttery crust. I also have some really cold water here, so we are ready to rock and roll. Now, I know it sounds kind of odd that I'm putting cream cheese into this, but you've got to just trust me. It's going to be so buttery and out of this world, you won't believe it. You could make this into a big pie if you wanted to, like a 9-inch pie with a lettuce topping. The dough makes enough for that, but you know, I just do it this way because I can. Now to my flour and salt, which I have got in my food processor, I'm going to add in my cream cheese that's really nice and cold. I'm just going to pulse it until the cream cheese is kind of in little rubbles all throughout the flour. Awesome. As you can see, real rubbly, that's exactly what you're looking for. Now we can add in our butter and vegetable shortening. If you can't find vegetable shortening, you can always just use a little extra butter. Oops, it's totally fine. You know, you might not get them to be super flaky because that's what the vegetable shortening does. Even though I'm only using about a 1/4 cup in the whole recipe, it does give you a little something extra that I think is kind of key to a really flaky crust. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to just pulse it until the shortening and the butter are just distributed really well throughout the flour. That looks great. You can see little pieces of butter. Okay, great. Now, while pulsing, I'm going to add a tablespoon of water at a time. I'm doing that because depending on how humid it is and dry and whatnot, you might need a little less or a little bit more water. So a few tablespoons should do it, but you're going to add just enough until the dough comes together, not so that it's completely kind of sticky. You almost want it to be more rubbly, like more rubbles than anything else, because that way if you pinch it together and it holds, then you know you've got enough water in there. But if you just kind of have this wet mess, then it's going to be very, very dense, and it's not going to be delicious and exactly what we want. So 4 to 5 tablespoons should do the job. Oh, that's perfect. You see how it's still crumbly, but if you pinch it, it holds together beautifully. That's what you're looking for. That is exactly what I'm looking for. So I'm just going to dump this onto my board. And also, if I don't have to add any extra flour, I want to be able not to have to add any extra, because otherwise, again, you're going to get really dense, and you don't want that. You want kind of soft and flaky and buttery, and I'm telling you right now, this will be out of this world when we are done. Just going to divide this into 2 pieces, wrap each piece in some plastic wrap. You know, I always have the hardest time getting this stuff out. There you go. And then just kind of, as you're wrapping it, just kind of flatten it into a disc. That's all. These are going to go into the refrigerator for about an hour. In the meantime, I'm going to clean up and get everything ready to make the peach filling, which I'm so excited about because, as you know, if you know me, I love anything peach, so these are going to be right up my alley. My dough was in the fridge for an hour, and I just took it out about 5 minutes ago. I always want my dough to kind of come to room temperature just a little bit for about 5 to 10 minutes so that it's not super hard to roll out and it cracks. Let's get going on a filling. I've got some delicious, fresh, juicy yellow peaches that I've just peeled and cut into little 1/2-inch pieces, just small little pieces. And I have to be honest with you, if you're looking to make this recipe in December, when the peaches are not in season, and they're rock hard, even if you find them at the supermarket, do not make it. They will not taste good. I'm a strong believer in using things when they're in season, and for me, I've got peaches all over the farmer's market nowadays, so that's what I'm using. And you can even do like plums if you wanted to. Now to this, I'm going to add just a little bit of peach preserves. what I found, and that's just a little tiny bit, but what I found is that it gives a lovely little stickiness to it, which I love. And then I've got some flour and sugar. The flour is going to thicken the juices that come out of the peaches. Therefore, you're not going to have like a big runny mess all over. Oh, I'm trying to get my vanilla paste to open, but there we go. And a little tiny bit of vanilla paste. I love this stuff. You could use just a splash of vanilla, like vanilla extract if you wanted to. I'm just going to use a tiny bit. I don't need a whole lot. This stuff is incredibly good. Okay, put the lid on it again, if I can manage to do so. And I'm actually just going to switch to my big spoon and give everything a really good toss. Take your time because you want to make sure the vanilla, the flour, everything is just kind of coating the peaches evenly. Looks great. Okay, set that aside and let's work on our crust. Now you want to make sure your oven's preheated to 375 at this point. I also have a baking sheet with some parchment paper ready, and I'm going to beat together an egg with a little bit of cream just to make egg wash. Kind of acts like glue. It's fantastic. And I also have some raw sugar there for some texture, some extra flour for my board, and you're going to need like a 4.5-inch biscuit cutter or whatever. What I'm using is actually a little tart pan because this is the perfect size. So that's what I'm using. Now we've got this ready. Let's get started. I'm going to flour my board because this might get sticky. And now you can add a splash of lemon juice or cider vinegar to your pie crust to make it super tender, which is great. And I often do that, which is why I have lemon right there. If you, however, are anything like me, oops, let me grab my rolling pin. If, however, you're anything like me and you sometimes chat too much and forget about adding the lemon juice, what you can do is you can roll this out just a little bit. For this recipe, you'll need about maybe 2.5 teaspoons of lemon juice, very small amount. Take a pastry brush, you just roll it out a little bit. In fact, you can still see all the fats, which is perfect. Just dip it in your lemon juice, and just that tiny little bit will do wonders. And then what I do is fold it over, flour a bit, and then just roll it out. And now it's sandwiched between those layers. Works. And just roll this out. You're looking for thickness to be between 1/8 of an inch and 1/4 of an inch. Not too thin, but most certainly not too thick. And this dough, you can still see the pieces of the cream cheese and the fats. It's going to be flaky and tender and oh so good. That looks great. You kind of want to work quickly so that you don't get those fats to warm up. And now just cut out your shapes. The tart pan actually works really well because you've got like a little handle here to dig it right out. Okay, now I'm going to re-roll this up. Don't you worry, it's not going to go to waste. Now take some of your filling, not too much, otherwise it'll explode. Put them like a little bit on the half, like towards you, because we're going to fold this over like a half moon. And I kind of like to do things in an assembly line. I just feel like it works best that way. And that way it's more productive, you know what I mean? That way you don't have to keep cutting and filling and rolling and getting your hands dirty, because that's just annoying. And you want to stay in the kitchen. You don't want to give yourself a headache and then be like, Laura, why'd you tell me to make this? We don't want that. Anyways, fill these babies up, and then you're going to take, with my pastry brush, you take your egg wash around the edges so that everything seals. And then you just kind of fold them over like so, and then seal. Start at one end so you can push out any air. Then I'm going to take a fork, dip it in some flour, and just seal your little edges and pop them on your sheet, baking sheet. Gonna cut just a slit on top of each one. Now I'm only gonna do a half a batch today because it's just my husband and I. And then in a couple days I have friends coming over, and it'd be great because I've got fresh dough, in the fridge. I'll have the filling ready, pop them in the oven. I'm a rock star. Brush the tops completely with your egg wash because they're going to give you that's going to give you great color. And then I'm just going to sprinkle the tops with some raw sugar for texture. You get the flaky, tender crust, that juicy filling, and some crust on the very top from the sugar, I think really kind of takes this a whole new level. And I'm just going to pop these into the oven, 375, excuse me, for about 20 to 25 minutes or until they're a beautiful golden brown color. Let them cool completely, and then, my friend, I'm going to sink my teeth into one. These were in the oven for about 25 minutes. They're perfection. They smell amazing, and I let them cool completely. Otherwise, I would burn myself, and that's never fun. Let's go into one. They've just puffed up such a, look at that. Beautiful peach. That crust could win you a prize. It really could. Look at the layers because of all the fat. Because when it keeps cold and you bake it, puffs up. So good. So good. I can't even stop. You can use other fruit for the filling. You can use plums, you can use nectarines, whatever's really in season. LauraAnnandKitchen.com will have the recipe waiting for you. I've been enjoying spending time with me, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.